have Dr. Jessica Barboza here with us to discuss self-care during the holidays. I'm repeating that just in case it wasn't on the recording. Well, let me introduce Dr. Jessica. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist and supervisor. She earned her PhD in human development and family studies from Utah State University. And as a clinician with the Leitari Group, Dr. Barboza supports individuals, couples, and families in their journey towards peace and healing. She's also a published author, an accomplished speaker, and a respected researcher in the field of family bereavement therapy. Welcome, Dr. Jessica.
Thank you, Liz. Excited to be here with all of you today.
I'd also like to note that this is our 1 year anniversary of doing these webinars. So we're celebrating. Yay!
Yay!
And Dr. Jessica was our first guest. So it's fitting that we're having you back. Very cool.
Thank you. Yes, I'm so glad that these have been so successful and meaningful for those that join us.
Yep, we're grateful. So, what made you think of the topic of self-care for this webinar?
Yeah, so for me, I think it was a lot about navigating lots of expectations of the holiday season. There's expectations of gift giving and financial expectations and those responsibilities, and then also maybe professional expectations at the end of the year and finishing up goals and things like that. Then we have family expectations and spending time, and what does that look like, and then expectations for and maybe our relationships and our goals and things that we wanted to accomplish this year. So I just feel like there's so many expectations and friendships and so lots of different things that are wrapped up into the holiday season and the end of the year that feel like they can become well, I don't want to say a burden to us, but it can feel really overwhelming to try to navigate so many aspects of our life, so many things that are of value to us, so many things that are important to us, and trying to fit them within a 4 to 3 week time frame is
It's
really
like
hard for all
impossible.
of us, right? It feels challenging. It feels some days, impossible, and we have to make decisions. We have to choose priorities. As we have so many things that are of value during this season. So how do we do that, and how do we navigate all these values and things that are important to us? I think was a big part of it. And then as a grief therapist, I also just can appreciate how the holidays can be triggering for loss and what we have lost this year, whether it's people in our lives or things that we have lost. And so just the meaning of the holiday season and what's wrapped up into that, and family dynamics, and how we can feel the absence also of people that are in our lives, and we might need to take care of ourselves a little extra because that can be it's just hard. It's hard to be confronted with those absences.
Yeah, I was just talking with my husband about that last night because he's lost both his parents. And holidays, it doesn't matter how many years they've been gone, and they've only been gone a few years now, but you
Sure.
miss them, right? You miss
Yes.
them and wish they could be there with you.
Yeah, so on top of all the expectations that we have and the heaviness of that, then we have, added meanings and losses and grief and emotions that are involved as well. And it just makes for a very complex few weeks. And how do we take care of ourselves, and all of that felt like a meaningful topic many people might be interested in.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it is. Well, thanks for joining us. Um, what are some examples of what can happen if we don't care for ourselves over the holidays? Or how could we maybe notice if we're in the hubbub of everything and we might not notice that we're not caring for ourselves so much?
Yeah, maybe we'll some warning signs. I guess it's just warning signs of burnout in general. So burning out is a big thing where we just feel exhausted all the time. We're fatigued all the time, which can actually lead to us feeling like we can't really enjoy the holidays like we want to. That the things that would normally bring us joy or pleasure or excitement are really actually harder to engage with. We can withdraw more, isolate more, and this is a time we want to be around other people, and we find ourselves actually feeling like we want to avoid people. And so we can notice that. So that those are some of the things, some of the symptoms, just in general of burnout that can happen if we're not taking care of ourselves. We can have increased irritability with others if we feel like we're kind of at our tipping point or maxing out ourselves, and then we can become irritable with others, which then creates conflict. And again, some of these things that we just don't necessarily want to be a part of our holiday season end up becoming a part of the holiday season because we're burnt out. And finally, I would say maybe all of us experience what I like to call the post holiday slump, where we're just kind of like, we go, 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 go. And then all of a sudden, right after Christmas, in between Christmas and New Year's, maybe right after New Year's, it's just like, we lose track of time. We have no sense of what's coming or what we want or what we need, and it's just kind of like this holiday slump, or post holiday slump. And so sometimes we feel that way because that's a sign of burnout, that we've maxed ourselves out to a point that we just become bums for a few days, just to recover. So, anyways, I can appreciate that maybe we all do that, but at the same time, that is a sign that we probably burnt ourselves out. And yeah, maybe
Yeah,
some
that makes
people
sense. So
happen.
instead of doing like your New Year's goals and being like so excited for the new year, you're like, I think I'm gonna sleep on the couch like the whole weekend or something.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Which again that slump can maybe lead to some isolation, withdrawal, avoidance, and can quickly maybe turn into depression if we're not careful.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. What are some common reasons that people neglect self-care or perhaps, yeah, make excuses not to?
Not to engage with it.
Mhm.
Well, I'm guilty of some of these, so I will share that we all make excuses for not taking care of ourselves. But again, I think it comes back to we all have to make decisions about what we're valuing in the holidays and what we choose to spend time on. And often, because there's so much that we want to do on the holidays, there's so many things that we value, we end up um, maybe not paying attention to ourselves as much,
Mhm.
and putting that more on the back burner. So I think that's the biggest thing that people report, myself included, is just lots of expectations, lots of things to try and obligations to navigate. And so it just feels like I don't have time. I don't have time to think about myself. I don't have time for me. I'll think about me later. This is the time right now that I really want to do all these other things, and I'm trying to kind of crunch it into this time frame. So I think that's a big reason. Another common one that I hear all the time is just this fear of seeming selfish. That if I do think about myself, especially in this time when we're supposed to be prioritizing family and connections and meeting with friends and doing all these activities, that somehow that's selfish of us, or I don't know, means that we don't value those things, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that that's also hard. Is no, we value these things, and we also value ourselves and our and our stability, and emotionally stability, and financial stability, and all these things. Like we value that too, and that's not selfish. We can value ourselves and value connection at the same time. And so that's a big reason I think people often neglect self care, is they feel like they can't do both. They can't value connections and relationships and all these things in their life and themselves at the same time. Another one that I maybe hear that's relatively common within a Catholic framework is that um, maybe there's this misconception about self care that it makes us comfortable, that it's if we take care of ourselves, somehow we're leaning into leisure or laziness, or and maybe God doesn't want that for us. God wants us to, I don't know, constantly be pushing ourselves and growing ourselves and doing things that make us uncomfortable. And so I think that's just a misunderstanding about what self-care really is, and maybe we'll talk about that in a minute. But that's another excuse people use. And finally, just a fear of missing out. Again, we really love being around other people and doing all these things, and it feels like we only have 3 to 4 weeks where the lights are out and the I don't know, the farms and things are doing their doing their Christmas season stuff, and where we have this time to do presents and family activities and things. So it feels so crunched that it's like, okay, I don't want to miss out on any of that, and so then I end up maybe neglecting myself a bit.
I think that last one is big for me anyway. It's like I don't want to miss out on seeing people. I love seeing
Yeah.
people and connection. And then it's hard to decide. I can't go to a party every night, but there's a celebration pretty much every night, or at least on the weekends. And so it's hard to say like, oh, I'm not going to see these people because I am too tired, or I foresee that I'm going to be too tired, right? So it's really hard to say no to those. And also the one that you mentioned about like the Lord not wanting us to be comfortable, I think that is so deep. Like for certain populations of us Catholics, right? It's like
Mhm.
we have read particularly like Butler's Lives of the Saints that portrays like all the saints as martyrs and super duper sacrificial, which
Sure.
obviously we have to live virtue to a heroic degree, but there is this idea that I don't think is quite healthy, which is like I always have to sacrifice or I always have to do the hardest thing, which means then I can't take myself into account and I can't take into
Mm.
account that I'm tired or that I'm exhausted or that I'd really like to say no to this person.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yes, and it forces us maybe to not set appropriate boundaries.
Yeah.
And we're not really our best selves when we're meeting with them. Or anyway, we kind of, again, we burn out. We have nothing left to give. And so at what point are we being refilled? And I think that's what, maybe we can lean into that a bit, Liz, is this part of the conversation, that really I think that's what self-care is about. It's not about getting comfortable or practicing leisure. It's not bubble bath, not always, sometimes it's not bubble baths and like, just being lazy, and just not doing anything. That's not self-care. In fact, I think self-care is a mindset of growth. It is a mindset of kind of challenging us and a self-reflection on really, where do you need grace right now? Where is the Lord calling you to kind of heal you or care for you? Where do you need His grace the most in your life right now? Um, and I really like to think about self care as a, this idea of prioritizing our values, what's really most important to us, but leaning into authenticity and monitoring the areas of our life that are feeling neglected. So thinking about it like you're tending to a garden, and allowing God to tend to that garden with you, right? The garden of your heart. Where are you feeling like you need the most grace? What is blooming in your life? What's wilting in your life? What's the season of your life? Are you in winter? In the winter season of your life? Are you in a spring season of your life? Are you in a fall season of your life in terms of your garden? And what do you need during that time? Do you need planting? Do you need watering? Do you need pruning? Like, what does your garden need? And so it's self-care really isn't just, I don't know, it's not a lazy experience. It's a very self-reflective experience to really check in with yourself, your own heart. Where are you? And where do you need care? Where do you need, and what kind of care do you need right now? So it's a more of an opportunity to invite grace into your life rather than to see it as, again, this selfish comfort thing. It's very much a spiritual practice, or can be. Self-care is very much a spiritual practice.
Yeah. So it's not so much saying like, hey, leave me alone, hey, stop asking me to do things, or
Sure.
like a closing in on myself, but more of a recognizing What's the priority right now? What's important right now? What is God
Yes,
asking of me personally right now?
yes.
Yeah.
Where is God? What is God asking of me? Where is He calling me? But where is He trying to kind of grow me in my own heart? What am I neglecting in myself? Maybe I'm not paying enough attention to. That He's wanting to heal, that He's wanting to take care of, that He's wanting to prune, that He's wanting to water, whatever it is, right? What's going on there? And am I open to that?
Could you share more about that idea of areas of self-care? Like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So there's kind of these five areas I think of self care, and so maybe I'm going to invite all of us as we think about self care in this way to really reflect on this today. Which of these five areas, like I said, maybe are blooming, and which of these five areas maybe feel more neglected in this holiday season, and where do you feel called? Where do you feel called to spend more time? Um, the Lord is really calling you to really care for yourself in one of these areas. So the first one is spiritual self care. So that includes, where's my relationship with God? Have I gone, to confession recently? Am I engaged in the mass? Do I need more time, more individual time with the Lord? Maybe adoration. Do I need community spiritually? And so, do I have Bible study groups or those kinds of things? But where's my spiritual life? Where's my connection to a higher power? Um, and my purpose and my role within that the mission of the Lord. Then the second one is relational self care. So relational self-care is, where are my relationships? Is there connection? Is there distance? Is there isolation within my relationships? Are there certain relationships that I really haven't invested a lot of time in? Are there relationships I'm investing too much time in? But where is the state of my relationships? And what do I feel like those relationships maybe need? Is there opportunity for greater connection within those? Then the third area of self care is physical self care. So that's things like, am I eating well? Am I exercising? Am I sleeping okay? Am I taking care of my hygiene? Those kinds of things are physical self care. And then we have professional self care. So where am I at in terms of my own personal goals and achievements in life? It's not necessarily that you're what you do for work, but professional self-care can also be, for stay-at-home parents or things like that as well. What are my goals, achievements in life? Am I working towards that? Do I align with my goals? Have they changed? Have they shifted? Do I feel supported in those goals? Do I feel like I've had conversations of advocacy for myself in wanting to reach those goals to the people who, like my bosses or family members, to help me reach those goals? So what are my goals? Am I working towards those in terms of my achievements and what I'm hoping to aspire to? What's my sense of purpose? And then there's creative self care. So that's the fifth and final one. Is what are we doing creatively? We are creative beings. We need creativity in our lives. It's such an important part of who we are that it helps bring imagination and possibilities and resilience to our life. And so, just creative stuff. It could be listening to music or trying to think of, let's see, listening to music, doing crafts, writing a book or poems, songs, doing art, painting, but something that invites a little bit of creativity into our life. Is an important skill that we like to hone, and it does bring a level of meaning to our lives that is very valuable. So, all of those things, those five things, spiritual, relational, physical, professional, and creative. What areas, again, think about that all as maybe the different plants in your garden, and which ones have been neglected or needing the most care? What's the season currently? And how do we care for those during this season of our life? Where do you feel called? Maybe just pick one. I know maybe all of us could pick all of them and say I could do something in all of them, right? But for again, a part of self care is setting boundaries for ourselves and knowing our own limits of what's realistic, um, and that we
My initial reaction was the only one that's blooming is my professional. But
yeah
then as you're talking, I'm like, wait, no. Spiritual's okay, relational's pretty good,
yes
professional's good, and creative, I have a plan for next year to get that moving.
sure.
But physical has been in the hole. So like
Sure. Yeah, so
yeah.
maybe that's, like again, we value all of those things. All of those areas of our life are so important. We could invest in all of them probably more. We could grow in all of them more. But where are we feeling like this season the Lord really wants us to focus on that, right? What's feeling the most neglected? Where is the Lord really inviting us to focus some additional time on in this season? And again, picking one and saying, okay, maybe that's where I can invest more of my attention um, over the holiday season. So maybe yeah, maybe it's physical self care. I think for me it is spiritual. I feel like that one's been a bit neglected, and just I have little kids and life is busy, so I really rarely pay attention to what's happening in mass because I'm dealing with 1,000 other things. So even trying to make time maybe for adoration before um, yeah, before Christmas will be a good thing for me.
Yeah, I think that's a great resolution. We were talking before this webinar, just thinking it was very a good timing for both of us, right? And that we
Yes.
would probably come out of this with some kind of resolution, personal resolution, right? So,
Yes, it's some kind of personal idea of what we needed because yeah, we're human too. As even as therapists, we know we need self-care, and yet we are also caught up in the busyness of this season. Um, and just as a time of Advent where the Lord is inviting us to slow down and invite peace into our life and all these things is exactly the time where it feels like everything ramps up and we have no time for actual reflection and peace and silence. So yeah.
well, so in particular, families where there's unhealthy dynamics, perhaps addictions, um, I think holidays can be even rougher, right? People get together
Yeah.
and maybe there's some unhealthy things happening. What would you recommend to people who are in that situation?
Sure. I think, like I said, self care is a lot about prioritizing what we value and living most authentically to our own values, to ourselves, and leaning into authenticity this season. So, um, anyways, I guess that's a little bit of my advice is really reflect on your own values during this holiday season and what you want to prioritize maybe in those relationships. So if you really value connection, and that's a really important, authentic value that you feel like the Lord is calling you to this season, then maybe take interest in what they're interested in. As challenging as that is sometimes, but maybe take interest in something that's interesting to them. Try to find some common ground, have some meaningful conversations, and try to show some interest in them to build that connection. If you really value peace and that's really important to you this holiday season, maybe you need to set some expectations for yourself and some internal boundaries about and maybe external boundaries, but specific boundaries about if they show up in this way, what does that mean for me? Do I need to remove myself from the conversation if it feels like things are getting too heated or escalated, or do I need to I'm trying to think of other things. Do I need to have limited interaction with them because it feels like it really rocks my anxiety to hear and worry about them and those kinds of things. So I'm going to give myself permission to have a little space from them, or how much space feels appropriate in that dynamic. So a reminder that boundaries are not about telling someone else what they need to change. A boundary is what you are going to do if that change doesn't happen.
Hmm.
Right? So, what are you doing um, to protect your peace. So that's the I guess if that's a value for you, this holiday season is your peace. Then maybe setting some expectations and boundaries, specific expectations and boundaries. If you value gratitude this season, noticing the things that your family members are doing well instead of thinking about all their flaws and all the things. It's so easy for us sometimes to get caught up in what's not going well in our family dynamics. But maybe if we want to lean into gratitude this holiday season, that we spend some time really reflecting on the things that our family members are actually doing well. So, yes, maybe my family member is confrontational and overwhelming and really, I don't know, demanding or controlling, but they showed up this holiday season and they brought presents and they are making cookies or I don't know, they're doing something. So focusing on maybe what's going well and introducing a bit of gratitude. So that's my advice, is really thinking about what are you valuing this holiday season, this Advent season, and how are you living authentically in your values? Because we can't always control what other people do, but we can control how authentic we are in our own values.
I think that's great advice, Dr. Jessica. When if we've grown up in a alcoholic family system or some kind of family system where there is addiction, it's not normal to have boundaries, right? It's not normal to just be able to say, like, I only want to deal with this to this point, or like once it gets to this point, like I'm out, or I need to leave, or excuse myself, right, in a gentle way. And yet, because we don't learn that we have any control over that
Absolutely.
situation. So I guess as adults, what we're trying to do is to say, I'm going to have a plan. If the person behaves in a way that I'm uncomfortable with, then I can excuse myself. Or maybe I'll only plan to stay 2 to 3 hours or an
Yeah,
hour. Like a shorter amounts of time tend to go better, right? It's like
sure.
when we just let things go.
Exactly. Or I'm not going to spend alone time with that person, right? That's an important boundary as well. Like maybe, it feels overwhelming for me to try to have a conversation with the person by myself, that's actually too much. So if I'm going to interact with that person, I'm going to do it in a group setting. So those are some great boundaries to have with maybe a very challenging person in the family.
What do you think from a spiritual perspective or from our Lord's kind of perspective, how would he see self-care during the holidays?
Mhm. Well, I mean, I think that's why he came, right? Was to care for us, was to love us. So this beautiful Advent season, I think, all the things, even the Advent themes, right? Hope, joy, peace, and love. That those are the mm, maybe I would say the tools that he uses to garden us, right? Those are the tools that he has for us, and so again, how are we letting him tend to us with those beautiful tools of joy and hope and peace and love that he so deeply wants to use in our garden? And how do we open ourselves up to that? So I think that that's the for me, that's the beauty of this season, is really reflecting on how he really wants to care for us, and that the whole reason Jesus came in general was because he wants to get intimate, right, the gardens of our heart, that he wants to be in them, present in them. So from a Catholic perspective, I think self-care again is just kind of inviting him as the gardener into our garden and saying, hey Lord, what tools are you using for me? What do I need? Where can you bring those graces into my life? Where can I be more receptive to you in my life right now? So yeah, it's a beautiful for me, I think self-care is just it's an invitation. It's an invitation for him to come into our stable, our inn, say, yes, there's room for you here. Um, yeah, you're welcome.
Mhm. Yeah, and that might even be a great exercise, right? Go to adoration or spend a moment in the quiet of your car if if adoration's too far away, and
Mm.
ask our Lord to show us how to care for ourselves during this Advent so that
Mm.
we do keep our focus on him
Hmm.
instead of like all the other like ephemeral stuff that
Yeah.
just tries to crowd him out, right? Like,
Absolutely. And the humility of our Lord, right? Who is born in a stable, and the humility of Mary, who gives birth in a stable. As I've had children, I'm like, oh my gosh, just that humility also just strikes me. Um, but regardless, I just think that like entering into their humility with them, and just in the same way of saying, hey, um, where can I labor you into my life, bring you forth into the world? Um, and maybe in order to do that, I have to let you enter into me. I have to let you kind of be within me. And um, so I think that's also a beautiful part of the Advent season.
well, thank you for letting us into your spirituality a little bit.
Thank you.
Um, I'm noticing the time, so it's 12:36, and we typically open up for questions at this time. So if anybody in the audience has a question, please either unmute yourself and you can ask it, or you can type it in the chat. I'll start off with some questions that we have that were submitted prior to the webinar. Somebody asked if there are any specific ways to beat the blues if you're feeling kind of down this holiday season.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's tough, right? Because the blues could be a lot of different things. So I think checking in with yourself, is it a sign of burnout, like we were mentioning earlier, where you feel like there's so many expectations, so many things you're trying to do that you've just kind of hit a wall and you're at a limit. And so things are just not as enjoyable to you anymore. And so if it's that kind of blues, I'd say consider your expectations, and maybe our expectations are too high. Maybe kind of explore what is really, again, your priorities, or what are you really valuing this season, what's most important to you, are you really living in your values? So if it's that kind of blues, I'd say set some more realistic expectations, really self-reflect on, are my expectations too high, and what do I really want to value or prioritize this season. Um, if it's another kind of blues, like it's kind of chronic blues, and it's something that you kind of deal with ongoing, is that might be um, kind of checking in more with community,
Mhm.
letting them know your needs, letting them know, hey, I need you to check in with me more. I need you to kind of help pull me out of a little bit of a slump. Kind of, what do you need from your relationships to help um, support you in that, if it's more of a chronic experience for you? Blues could also be like grief. And so if it's just like a heaviness around the losses of this season, and just being reminded of those losses, being confronted with those losses more often this around this time, then I would focus on what are you doing to maybe honor those losses, memorialize those losses. Where do they feel like they have a place within this holiday season, and reflecting on that. Um, so anyway, all of that to say, I think it requires some self-reflection about where are these blues? How do I interpret these blues? Is it burnout? And again, what areas of self-care maybe could help meet the need that's underlying there.
That's great. Thank you. So, great question here. Somebody wants to know, how do I gracefully let others know that I or we are taking some time for self-care? And I think this is a great question because some families aren't like as well versed on the idea, you
On
know?
the idea of self-care. Um, yeah, I mean, I think we can call it a lot of different things. So, as we're discussing today, maybe we can say, I'm protecting my peace more this holiday season. I'm leaning into gratitude this holiday season. And so I'm needing some more time for that. So, call it what you want to name it, that you think maybe could help people better understand what it is that represents for you, what self care is representing for you in this holiday season. Maybe they're more amenable to understanding it if we use different terms that they maybe um, have better associations with. But also, to me, when we invite that. or when other people say that to me in my life, I think I always worry that they're going to think, oh, um, I don't care about them. Again, I'm not prioritizing them. But really, what I experience on the flip side when someone says that to me is like a relief. I'm like oh, yay, right? Yay, there's time in this season for this. And it's almost an invitation or an encouragement for me to do the same. And so I really want to reframe that a little bit, that maybe it's more our own fear that people think we don't value them, but just say, hey, I am valuing you in this way. I want to spend time with you during these times, and this is when I'm really prioritizing our connection together, is during, our family dinner together, or during a particular event we're going to together. That's when I'm really prioritizing connection. But on some other times when I'm not seeing you, I'm also trying to prioritize this season gratitude, or my own physical well being, or some professional goals that I feel like have been neglected, whatever it is. But giving them some idea of, you're important to me and this is important to me. It's not an either or.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Someone brings up the thought of feeling guilty for saying no. Like, how do we say no? But more than just saying no, how do we not feel guilty for saying no?
I mean, again, I think that's a reflection on our values and
Hmm.
authentic living, right? So I usually feel guilty because I'm not aligned in my values. So check in on that, right? Is the guilt coming up because I'm not feeling aligned in my values, that I actually really want to prioritize connection, or I'm doing the right kind of self-care? Am I really doing self-care that's in line with my values and what I'm hoping to gain from this season? Or does it feel like I'm prioritizing things over something that I actually really value? So I think exploring that. Am I really in line with my values? And if I am in line with my values and I feel like I'm being authentic, then maybe you know that guilt is more not my own expectation of myself, but maybe other people's expectations of me. And so how can I let that go? That's actually not my values. Those are other people's values that I don't ascribe to. So how can I maybe let those go, or acknowledge that those are not my values, that I'm not aligning with? That's someone else's values, and I don't have to live up to someone else's values. It's important that I live in up to my own values. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that especially so say, say my husband, for example, has an expectation that we're going to spend all day together, right? So then that's where I think the guilt comes, or it's like you say, oh, well, I want to go for a run, which I don't even run,
Yeah.
but like I want to go for a run. And then the spouse is like, well, wait, don't you want me to cook breakfast? And then
Sure.
you're like, no, actually, I want to go for a run,
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
but I was
So
gonna
is
cook
it?
you eggs or whatever, you know? And it's
Sure.
like,
Sure.
yeah, but I want to go for a run.
Yes. Yeah. So in alignment with my values, right? That's his values. And so I also value caring for him and meeting his expectations. But have I done that, right? Or am I, so could I say something like, hey, it's important to me that I get a run in today. Um, and I can tell that maybe you want to spend some time together today. It feels like maybe when could we do that? I want to make sure that we're doing that because that's important to me too. That's in line with my values, is spending time with you. Um, but if you expect the time that we spend together to be all day, that's maybe not in line with my values. So how do we shift that? Not shift the expectation, but also not abandon that expectation, right? To say, hey, okay, what feels appropriate to coordinate um, what we both need
Yeah.
today, or what we're both trying to seek from this time.
the quality of Liz that you're gonna get if you want me to spend all day with you is not very
Not gonna
high.
be
No.
good. Not gonna be good, right? And so, in alignment with my values, I want to give you the best version of me. And so, maybe that does mean that I need to go for a run,
Right.
um,
Yeah.
something like that. And then maybe we can cook lunch together, or we can do something else that um, also meets this value for connection and closeness.
Yeah. Yeah. So really aligning expectations, right? Especially with close family,
Yeah.
trying to figure out, I think that's a big part. And that might be a big part too of the stressors that we experience,
Oh,
right?
absolutely, absolutely. Again, identifying what's my expectation of myself, right? If my expectation of myself is to meet everybody else's expectations, that's not an expectation of myself. So I'm just going to say that outright. So if your expectation of yourself is to meet everybody else's expectations, that's not a good expectation for you. That's not an actual expectation for you. So consider that, right? What is my true standard expectations for myself this holiday season? What do I want? What am I again? What's a priority to me? And then again, maybe what's priority to everybody else? And if I value connection, how am I meeting maybe some of those expectations, but not of others, but not adopting them as my own expectations for myself, or saying that their expectations are my expectations. Um, no, I have values. These are the things that are important to me. And so, how do I best align with that?
Yeah. Well, I have really enjoyed this time with you, Dr. Jessica.
Likewise. Thank you, Liz.
Is there anything, any thoughts you want to leave us with? Something that you hope everybody walks away with?
Hmm. Maybe I'll read the Bible verse that we had kind of picked for this, um, which is from Matthew 11:28. And it says, "Come to me, all who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." And to me, that is just so symbolic of what the Lord wants to do for us in our hearts, that we are laboring. He sees us laboring, and He's not asking us to not labor, but He's saying, "Come to me, come spend time with me. Let me take care of you so that you can rest. Um, that your hard work, your labor is seen, it's valued, and there's time for rest too." Hmm.
Thank you. That is so deep.
Hmm.
There's a book by a gentleman named, I think it's pronounced Pieper, it's spelled Piper, on
Mm-hmm.
leisure.
Mm.
I have not read the whole thing, but that might be something that we should dive into at some point.
I would love
Um,
that. I'll have to look it up. Thank you, Liz, for sharing.
yeah. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining. If you have the moment to give us a review on Yelp, we would appreciate it. And if you would like to contact Dr. Jessica, you can reach her at Latare Health. We have pasted her link in the chat, and there will be a recording of this webinar sent out. But obviously, you guys got the live version, so that's awesome. We wish you all a very Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and we look forward to seeing you in the new year.